Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas.
Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Honorable Warrior on Bravery Within. And I just wanted to take just a moment here to say thank you so very much for tuning into my podcast. You guys are amazing. It's getting bigger and bigger all the time. I'd like to say thank you for all the people that are now subscribing to my YouTube channel. That channel is starting to grow. We're getting a lot of people watching it, and it's starting to be shared everywhere. So thank you so very much. I've been trying to keep up some of the updates and stuff on my Facebook page. And like I've said in the past, I'm not very good at it. I struggle with social media, so I'm not the best at it. But I do try to keep up with updates as much as I can. Hopefully someday I'll have somebody that will teach me how to do this stuff and figure it out and keep up with it. But until that day, you guys are just stuck with me. Sorry to say that. So today on The Honorable Warrior, what I wanted to do was talk about different things for basically what it all comes down to. We're going to talk about today is the bro code. So episode 4 is actually going to be called Men Need Deep and Lasting Relationships. Now, I can hear a bunch of guys out there going, "Oh, really, Sean? We're going to talk about this?" Just know before I say anything else, you guys are strong. You're amazing. You're pillars. You can stand on your own 2 feet. Don't get me wrong at this. I'm not saying you're weak in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm going to talk about today is the deep and lasting relationships that honestly we all need. And it doesn't matter how you want to define it. Most of the time it's defined as the bro code, which, you could say however you want to. I mean, I think it's kind of gotten a bad name, unfortunately, because they think, wow, bro code, that means you're soft and you're girly, and, that's just not going to work for me because I'm manly and I got a beard and I drink beer. Or whatever way you want to look at being manly. It's up to you. Doesn't matter. There's no judgment here. It's completely up to you. So, but what I wanted to do was talk about is there's all kinds of different ways of supporting, your guy friends. I mean, let's just say it that way. And everybody automatically jumps to, oh, well, if you're going to do that there, then that means you're soft or you're girly, or worse yet, which I hate this one, is you're gay. And it's like, no, that doesn't mean that at all. If you were to go back, and let me tell you a little bit here. If you were to actually go back in time, go back a couple 100-300 years, somewhere in there is what I was trying to do some research on when I was coming up with this episode. Men used to be a lot closer. They used to, let's be honest. They fought together, they hunted together, they ate together, and I hate to break your heart on this, guys, but they used to confide in each other all the time, and it was about everything. Just because you have somebody that's super close to you and you enjoy their company doesn't mean you have to have a romantic aspect to it. Or if you want a romantic, that's fine. Doesn't mean you have to have a sexual aspect to it. There's a powerful misconception in today's culture, and the social norms dictate to us that men are not to basically interact with each other without, just saying, hey, and high five or fist bump or something like that there. And the hardest part trying to get through to everybody is the social norm says that's all you're allowed to do. We're not allowed to talk about our feelings. We're not allowed to acknowledge them. Nothing. And it's not always just about feelings that I'm trying to get through to you guys out there. This all comes down to being supportive of each other, helping each other out, being there for each other. You should be able to, no matter what, be able to talk about whatever you want to, whatever you feel, because surprisingly, things bother us. I mean, I know, and I'm sure there are some ladies that are listening to this podcast, even though it's all designed, for men to be, for the mental health of men, and it is why I do this series. But if you're a woman listening to this, men do have feelings. We're not allowed to express them is really what it comes down to. And ladies have it so much better because it's allowed. You're allowed to, you hug each other. You're allowed to kiss each other. You're allowed to be there for each other. Whatever it is, you guys are allowed to show emotion. That's really what it comes down to. But the moment that a man shows any inkling of feelings or emotion, we're called girly, or we're called, feminine, or whatever you want to do it. We're basically ostracized at that point, and it's almost like you lose all your all your reputation, for lack of better words. I'm not quite sure how exactly to say that, but there's been times where I've lost friends over because they'll ask me what's wrong, or something's bothering you, or they could see that, wow, you got a migraine, what's causing the migraine. And the thing that they are overwhelmed with is, I flat out tell them I don't want to talk about it, mainly because I know that what I have to talk about and the way I need to talk about it is going to come across as feminine or girly, because I want to talk about what's bothering me, and sometimes that involves emotions. And we're, from the moment that we can start walking or breathing, or good Lord, who knows how far it goes back, we're told to suck it up, to just keep it to ourselves, compartmentalize. Well, that's okay for a while, but it does start to build up, and men need a healthy outlet for that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go all mushy and cry and everything else. You do whatever you want to make yourself feel better, because the stress that men are under these days is amazing. It's just incredible. What's expected out of us, the social norms, the misconceptions about how we're supposed to be is incredible. And with all of that pressure, and then you pile on a job, then you pile on family, you pile on home, you have all of this extra stuff that just dumps on you, and we're sitting here going, what do we do from here? I feel completely overwhelmed. And the moment that I start talking about anything, I lose my masculinity, and I might as well just go put on a dress. Well, that's kind of how unfortunately, that's kind of how we're kind of like backed into a corner. So the moment we just don't talk about it. And honestly, I think if I had my choice, and if there was a way that I could do it, I would love to start a support group for the men in, where I live here in Podunk, and try to help them a little bit more, and say, okay, you know what, you can talk about this stuff. This is a judgment-free zone. You need to get this off your chest. You need to start talking. And the hardest part is going to be like, most of us don't even know how to explain anything, or where to start, or what to say. And, ultimately, yes, I want to help and I want to start something, but, I'm not a therapist. I don't know the correct words to say. I don't know the right way to go about it, but I'm an incredible sounding board. I have big shoulders. There isn't anything that I can't listen to or take on and try to help out. But that's kind of what men need. But we're not allowed to do anything like that. And as I've been doing more and more research for this podcast, for this series, I've been learning that there are starting to be a little bit more in, like groups where men can go so they can talk honestly and openly about what's bothering them. And sometimes it may not even be emotionally. It could be just something stressful is bothering them at work, or, maybe they don't know how to handle, like something that came up with their kids, or something that came up at work, and you're just overwhelmed. Believe it or not, men can get overwhelmed pretty easily too. We've learned to compartmentalize it and lock it away. But one thing that I wanted to, basically say to all the guys out there is, yes, I know there's plenty of you that hunt, that fish, that golf, that play basketball, baseball, softball, you name it. There's so many different things out there that you can do. And I know that when you're out with your friends and stuff, and you're doing these things, that's basically the time. You don't want to talk about it, but that's about the time you do, because typically you go out and we do things as men. We're together, this is the time to talk about it. But most of the time, it's like, how do I even approach the subject? How do I even, it could be something, it could come down to where, guys, sorry, I'm a little off today, but my wife or my partner or whoever, is going through a really rough time. They may have cancer, or they might be just sick, or they may have lost their job, or something big, and it's overwhelming, and you don't know how to start the conversation. But sometimes if you just dip your toe in the water, most of the time the guys are willing to listen. And if they're not willing to listen and they make fun of you right away, I really wouldn't even put them in your group anymore. You need to find folks that you basically can surround you and build you up and help you through those rough times, because believe it or not, we don't have all the answers. That's just, we have to learn on the fly just like anybody else. But when we make a mistake, we have to own up to it and keep moving. But when we do good things, we don't typically get told thank you or good job or anything like that. It's just like, shut up and get back to work, or whatever it is. And that makes it very, very hard. And we learn from an early age, like I said, to basically just suck it up and keep moving. And I'd have to think, and as I was trying to figure out, how to word things in this podcast, I went back and figuring out, okay, when did things start to change? Because let's be honest, when you're young, it didn't matter who you talked to. It didn't matter if you went up and high-fived somebody or you hugged another guy or whatever it was. You were free to show emotion at that point. And I think, honestly, it was probably somewhere around, I don't know, first or second grade. To be honest, we were in school. That's when the real training, the real learning happens for something in there, and I'm not quite sure. I don't know if it's all the stuff that we've been taught, saying, okay, you don't express emotion, you don't show pain, you don't show fear, you don't show any of that stuff because it's all considered a weakness, and the social norms say that's exactly how it's supposed to be perceived. And I was thinking it was probably about first or second grade that I remember that walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden this kid comes up and punches me in the arm, and I winced and asked and said, God, that hurts, knock it off, and I cringed, and they saw weakness, and it was like, blood in the water for sharks at that point. It was like, okay, well, guess what? Now we're going to go after and we're going to tease that kid. And for the remainder of the year, I got just ridiculed really, really bad. It wasn't until I come back the next year and I learned the hard way that you don't show fear, you don't show pain, that they'd come up and they would, hit me as hard as they could in the shoulder, or they'd hit me in the back or something like that there, and I would just stand there and take it. It's like, is that all you got? And once you started doing that, then you started gaining respect. And I don't understand why we have to be that way. I understand we're supposed to be the strong ones. We're supposed to be the rocks. We're supposed to be there for everybody else. We're supposed to have all the answers. And that I'm fine with that. That's fine. That's kind of the way we are. It's kind of like, the moms are basically the caring, the nurturing, the soft side of the relationship, and we're supposed to be the ones that do the discipline and the hard teachings and the tough love, and I'm fine with all of it. That's fine. But there gets to be a point to where even us men need a safe haven to fall back to. And sometimes, because it involves either deep feelings or something that's bothering us that might make us, God forbid, tear up a little bit, we always seem to fall to, our partners for that there, because typically they can handle seeing us in a little bit weaker state. Now, don't get me wrong, I had my fair share of girlfriends that, they say, oh, I love a man that can cry, or a man that will express his emotions. And even if I just a little bit, even a sentence of saying my emotions, they freaked out. It's like, whoa, I don't like this. This isn't what men are supposed to be. And then we ended up going our own separate ways. And it was like, I do what you ask and I get in trouble. I don't do what you ask and I get in trouble. So us men have just basically figured out, hey, you know what? I'm just going to err to the side of good and just not talk about anything. And all that does is basically lead to ulcers, heart attacks, migraines like I get. It just leads to a plethora of problems with your body. It really, health problems are bad. And once your body starts running downhill, it's hard to get it back to where it needs to go. So to me, this is me, and I'm probably going to get a lot of mail for this one. But I don't see any reason why men cannot be there for other men and form deep connections with each other. Because honestly, I have one friend, and we've been friends for 15 years, and I was lucky enough to get him on my show. And he talked about being on the road as a trucker and everything there. And we've been friends. I think it's been like 15 or 16 years, and there's nothing that I can't tell Brian. He's always there if I need to talk to him. He doesn't judge me. He's accepted me for who I am. And I've done a lot of changing since my divorce. And I've done a lot of learning. I've done a lot of soul searching, and he's taken it all in stride. He's incredible. And to have that kind of place where you can go And he's never once ever made fun of me. He's never ridiculed me. He's never made me, belittled me or nothing there. And those are a special kind of bonds, because somebody like that, there's nothing I wouldn't do for, because he's showing me that he has my back. He's going to support me. He's going to help me through whatever it is. He's going to, basically pick me up when I'm down. And it's just like having that kind of a connection is awesome. Now, I'm not saying that, he's married. Don't take the wrong, don't get the wrong idea here. But what I am trying to convey, which is really, really hard, to be honest, because I'll be honest, I struggled with, I worked on this episode for probably 2 weeks, trying to make sure that I say the right things and having it come out the right way. And it's probably still not going to work that way, but I'm doing the best that I can here. But it's all right to have deep connections with another guy. That's a popular misconception, because honestly, you need someplace to, let the stress come off. You need to be able to talk honestly. And it doesn't matter how that comes out, but you need to be able to talk honestly about what's bothering you, or what's going on at home, or what's going on at work. And you need to be able to know that you can turn to that person or persons. If you're lucky to have more than one, that's incredible. But for me, I've only got one or two that I can be open and honest with. And for me, those connections are, there's nothing I wouldn't do for them. I mean, those guys are amazing. And like I said, I haven't been in a relationship in over a decade. So I mean, I've been single for so long, I probably would need a book and go back to school on how to be in a relationship again. I've been so out of it. So been so out of the dating world. And for me, but that whole time I've learned how to grow, and I've learned to see myself in a different perspective. And when you do that, and I went back and started analyzing my core beliefs, and that is something that if you've never done, that is a whole different ballgame. When you go back and analyze and think, okay, some of this stuff is too, I'm old school, don't get me wrong. I'm Gen Z or Gen X, and I am old school all the way. And to go back and basically take a look at the way I was raised and some of the beliefs that I was raised with, and to change those is something that most people never do, and that's a hard thing. And due to the divorce, that's something that I did, is I went back and reanalyzed who was I. I kind of rewrote the book on who is Sean. What makes Sean me. And one thing that I always kept coming back to is like, okay, yes, I have these friends, I have these guy friends, I have these girlfriends, and you have all these different types, and most of the time the friends you have, a lot of them don't interact with each other because they're kind of there, in different needs, different variations. However you want to put it there, and most of the time you always have that one friend you don't introduce to anybody else, because it's like you never know how they're going to come across. Well, that's me. Let's be honest. Most time people won't intermix me with anybody else. But you shouldn't be so worried about it. If you can find that right person or the right persons, that to not let your guard down. I know that us men were designed, we're taught, and we're showed you never let your guard down, because that's a sign of weakness. Somebody could come up and take advantage of you, or make you feel, basically say something and tear you down. So you're always like on guard. You're like on guard 24/7, 365. You just don't know any different. It's like you're always ready to fight. You're always walking around with your fists clenched, trying to, and that leads to a whole different level of stress. So the moment that you let your guard down just a smidgen, you feel like somebody's going to take advantage of you, or somebody's going to say something to you and belittle you, or say you're not man enough. It drives me nuts to hear that, because it's like, no, you need a safe place to go that when there's, when the world is just, it feels like it's just raining down on you. It's like you need a safe place to go. And if you can't find a place where you can let your guard down, then we're in trouble, because it's like, I don't know what to do. It's like this stress keeps going up. It's kind of like if you're out in the middle of the ocean and you're barely treading water, and all the stress is basically the new waves coming in and the problems are coming in, and they just overrun you and you start feeling like you're drowning. To me, that's kind of how I felt for a long time, until I started opening up and talking a little bit. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. It is not. It's not easy, gentlemen. Because I felt so funny in the beginning. It was kind of like, you get told that if you start showing emotion or let your guard down a little bit, that you're just, you're soft, you're not a man, you're not a real man, you're not a tough man, okay, so I'm not out in the wilderness there, taking on a big black bear with a little pocket knife. I mean, to me, that's not what makes up a man, and I know I'm not tough enough to do that, I'll be honest. My idea of foraging was going to the cupboard there and figuring out something for supper. But men need a safe place to go. That's just, really what it comes down to. And I'm going to say something here that's probably going to make all the men absolutely crazy. But having feelings and expressing them doesn't make you weak. I can't stress that enough. We have emotions just like everyone else, and we need a safe place to express them. Now, I know that I didn't make any friends by saying those couple sentences there to you guys. But whether you care to admit it or not, we have to have those deep connections. And if you want to consider that a bromance, that's fine. Whatever it takes. But to me, I don't see that there's anything wrong with, you go up and guys had a bad day, go up and give them a quick hug, or buy him an extra beer, or sit down and just let him just talk and don't judge. Whatever he says, whatever comes around, whatever he mutters, let him get it out of his system. Because let's be honest, guys, most of us don't know how to talk about our feelings. I don't have any idea. I'm learning as I'm going through these episodes on what best to do and what not to do. I mean, for the most part, I know how to talk to ladies and stuff, what not to say. You never answer that question. Does this dress make my butt look big? You never answer that. There is no good outcome when you get asked that question. There's no good outcome. It doesn't matter whether you say yes, it looks fine, or no, it doesn't, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter how you're going to answer it. It's going to get flipped on you, and you're going to get in trouble. So but men don't ask questions like that. The neat part about having having a bromance with a guy. I mean, let's just say it. Having a bromance with a guy is most of the time guys are honest. They're going to tell you. Now, I know it hurts at times. I'm not going to argue that point. To hear the brutal truth is kind of like, ow, that really, really stings. But for the most part, I would much rather have somebody be that brutally honest with me than try to sugarcoat it. For me, it allows me to make the changes that I need, and this is how people are actually perceiving me. And if that's not the way I want to be perceived, then I need to make changes. I'm proud of who I am. The changes that I've made over the past, from after the divorce and stuff there for the past 13 years. I'm proud of how far I've come. I'm proud of the changes that I have done and who I am. Because some of the things that I personally do, I was just trying to come up with a couple of things here, that for my friends, for my guy friends and stuff there, to help them out. The first one is be there and support them in times of need. We all have times where we feel weak. We just don't feel like we can do this. We don't feel like we can get off the couch and continue on, or however you want to say that one there. I've always been there in those times of need. And I don't think anything less of them, because we get so beat up, we're so tired, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And a lot of you guys out there are amazing. You guys are doing incredible work. I mean, I'm lucky. I have a desk job mainly because, sooner or later I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I'm not going to be able to walk anymore. So I don't have any choice where I can't be out doing construction or concrete or roofing or, logging or anything like that there where, it's really, really physical. It's not an option for me. I've had 2 hernias and reconstructive back surgery. It's just not in the cards anymore. So when I used to do construction, and having to go from construction to a desk job, and let me tell you, holy cow, that was an adjustment. I had a hard time making that adjustment, but I had to because I needed to continue to make money for my family and be there for them. But the one thing that I'm always proud of is I've always been there and support them in the times of need. All my male friends and stuff, if they need it. And I don't think anything less. I stop whatever I'm doing. If I was watching TV or reading a book or whatever it was, I always stopped whatever I was doing. If they wanted to talk after work, we went out by the vehicles where we were away from everybody else so they felt comfortable, and we talked. And I never judged them. And if they asked for my opinion, then I gave it to them. But for the most part, just talking about it makes a huge difference. That's one thing that I've learned through the years of helping all my men friends out there. Another thing is I allow them to speak honestly and frankly about anything. free of judgment. I don't look down on them. I don't think otherwise of them. I don't see them in a particular way. They are who they are, and I accept them for who they are and without changing them. If they want to change, if they're asking for something, then I'll talk to them about that. But I've always found that being honest with somebody and being, upfront with them is the best way. Now, have I lost friends over this? Yes, unfortunately I have. They couldn't handle the truth, even though they asked me for the truth. And I've been known to sugarcoat and soft coat things in the beginning or whatever to try to make sure that, they don't get mad at me. But if you ask me to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you honestly whether you want to hear it or not. And I respect that, and I expect it back. I mean, there are times that I may think, okay, well, this is really what I'm doing, or this is how I feel, and then they'll come across and say, nope, this is how it looks, and this is it's like, no, you can't dance. There's just you just can't do it. But I've always allowed them to speak honestly, and some of the conversations that I've had with my guy friends is like, holy cow, I never thought I'd ever hear a guy say that. And you could see they were embarrassed. Their faces were red. They were hanging their heads. They were kicking the rocks while we were talking and stuff there. And yes, I have had guys break down in tears because either a woman destroyed them or their partner destroyed them, or somehow they found out things just weren't working right, and they come home and all the stuff is gone. And there's nothing wrong with that. I never thought anything less, because that's an incredible amount of pain and anger and anguish that all of a sudden you're feeling it. And like I said, guys have feelings and emotions just like the ladies do. And the problem is they just don't have a safe outlet for them. So I've always been able to be that sounding board as much as I possibly can for them. So that way they never, basically they don't think that they don't have anywhere to go. I try to do everything that I can to make sure that they feel comfortable and just allow them to talk and just be themselves. And let me tell you, if you can do that and you can find a friend that's like that, I'm not sure there's a greater gift in the world, knowing that you can go and talk to somebody and you can say it the way it is. I mean, I've had guys absolutely explode at me, use every curse word in the book, and just absolutely drop the F-bomb every other word as they're talking to me. But they have so much anger and so much hurt and so much pressure built up that's their only way to go. And when they were all done, they apologized. Said, there's nothing to apologize for. You are just being you. And I didn't take any of it personally. I thank them for being so open and so honest with me and allowing me to try to help them a little bit. And if that just means I just sit there and just listen, then that's exactly what I do. If they ask for an opinion, then I'll give them an opinion. If they ask me to be honest, I'll be honest. And let me tell you, it's not always what you want to hear. And it's just the same way with me. It's not always what I want to hear. But, knowing that I always have their back, that's one thing. Another thing that I always tell them is I always let them know that I will be there for them through the thick and thin. I am not a fair weather friend. I am there for you for everything. I mean, until you walk away from me and tell me you don't want me in your life anymore, I'm there. And I will do everything in my power to try to be there for you. And I think, even though your friends and stuff there, your guy friends and stuff there, they know you're going to be there because you've proven to them that you're going to be there. It's still good to hear it. They may feel a little funny, or they may lightly tap, punch you in the in the shoulder or something like that there. But whether you care to admit it or not, we like hearing it. Because it's nice to hear saying someone's got your back, somebody's going to be there for you, no matter what. And knowing that you have got that, basically somebody behind you constantly, it's amazing how much more you can handle trying to get through life, because life throws so much at us. And I'll be honest, there's been times, when I went through my divorce and stuff there, it was overwhelming and I didn't have anybody to talk to, and it really stunk. And I had to take all of that on myself. And I almost just short-circuited. I know I asked for the divorce. I'm not hiding that in any way, shape, or form. I'm the one that did it there. I made the decision to break up the family. But it still didn't alleviate the pain. It didn't make it any easier, and I didn't have anybody to talk to about that. It made it very, very difficult. But I got through it, and a lot of the things that I've learned as I've gone through life and everything else is I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of all the bad stuff. So one thing I try to do, and I'm not perfect at it, is I try never to put somebody else on the receiving end of that kind of punishment or, mean comments or anything like that. I try never to put somebody in that spot because I don't want them to feel the way that I felt. And yes, I said feel the way. And that's one thing that I need you guys to understand is, yes, you have feelings, and yes, we hide them. I'm not arguing that point. I hide mine constantly. And if it wasn't for the podcast, nobody would probably even know that I had feelings. But I see so many of my guy friends out there, and they struggle. And it's hard. And sometimes it's like you just have to keep pushing a little bit. They'll come out on their own, but sometimes even us guys need a little bit of encouragement to say, okay, you know what? You're in a safe area. It's a judgment-free zone. You're okay. You need to talk. You need to get this off your chest. And it doesn't matter how you get it out or how you say it. Just say it. And because I know we don't know how to process emotions. We don't know how to talk about them. I'm not disputing it. And that's why in many ways, I kind of wish I could start a support group to try to help guys out a little bit there and basically tell them some of the things that I've learned to get through everything. And when you're somebody like me, it makes it even tougher because I'm an empath. I feel emotions. And that makes it so much more difficult because we can get wound up in somebody else's emotions. So when you're telling me, nope, nothing's wrong, I can feel the hurt or the anger or the betrayal or whatever it is in you. And I know it needs to come out. And that's what I try to be there for all my friends as much as I possibly can. Am I perfect at it? No. But I work at it every day trying to make things just a little bit better for them. So however, basically you want to break it down, if you want to call it a bromance, that's fine, because I'm going to lead into some more things here talking about a bromance, and it may make you uncomfortable, but the problem is it's only going to make you uncomfortable for a little bit. But once you start embracing this a little bit more and realize that it's okay. Now, I'm not saying, to go out there and, basically cry on everybody's shoulders every 5 minutes. Nobody wants somebody like that. But you still have to have a safe outlet to go to. And that's what I try to be there for my friends. And remember, having feelings and expressing them doesn't make you weak. We have emotions too, guys. You just have to learn how to basically talk about them and be there. But one thing that I was reading up on as I was going, prepping for this and trying to figure out how best to approach this episode, I ran across this report, which kind of shocked me a little bit. But it says men have fewer social ties overall than they used to, with only 27% of men in 2021 saying they had at least 6 close friends, compared to 55% in 1990. And that's 31 years difference. And in that time, they're calling it a friendship recession. And basically, it's affecting men's health and happiness. And I had never heard anything like that before until I was doing some research on this one here. And it comes down to basically a lot of guys feel isolated. They feel that, they have fewer friends, so they don't really have anybody to talk to. It's already hard enough for us to talk to, but when options aren't there, when we don't have somebody to turn to, it makes it even worse. It could be something as simple as they're not doing, as much either at the church or a special organization. Let's be honest, marriage is failing with over 50% of them not working. So there's, you can't even come home and talk to your spouse about anything. The workplace, you're not allowed to talk anything, otherwise you're going to end up in HR and get written up and lose your job. And then you factor in what we went through with COVID. And so many people were working from home. You weren't allowed to talk to anybody. You weren't allowed to go see anybody. You have all of these things that are basically adding to men feeling isolated from basically the world and other guys. And we have to, the moment you start talking about this stuff, like I said, they consider you non-masculine. But we have to basically start banding together, for a lack of better words, and say, you know what, it's okay for us guys to talk to each other. It's okay for us guys to start opening up to each other. It's okay to stop judging each other and say, well, just because you talked about your feelings or you let some steam off or whatever it was, that makes you less of a man because you couldn't keep it locked up. That is so not true. And we have to start saying enough is enough of this stuff. We have to start worrying about our own mental health. And that's why I started this series, is because I see so many misconceptions and things that need to change. Because no matter what you say, there was plenty of times back in the old days. I mean, you're going to have to go back a long ways, because society has basically taken over and said, this is the way men are supposed to be, you can't deviate from it, and that's the way we are. But men used to hunt together. They used to fight together, used to die together. They would talk to each other. It built such amazing rapport and foundations for friendships that they got you can say this and groan at me all you want, but they were intimate with each other. I'm not saying on a sexual level. I'm saying that you can be absolutely close friends and be you could be closer. I mean, there's friends that I have had in the past that I'm closer to them than whatever was with my ex-wife or girlfriends. Some of the men there that helped me through some of the tough times and stuff there. And you can say, oh, wow, Sean, you're not very masculine. You can call me whatever you want to, but I know that those guys were there for me, and then they accepted me for who I am. And to me, that was worth it all. So I accepted them, and that's when I learned that we need to change this whole stigma about men are not allowed to have feelings or talk about them. We have to get this reversed. Because us men, we need a safe place to go. And that's really what it comes down to, because we have to be able to talk too. We have to be able to, handle more problems as they come from the job or from the home front or from, anything like that. We have to figure out how best to go about this. So until we can get this figured out and help each other, we're going to have little problems. But I just want you to know, it's okay, guys. It's to be there for each other. That's really what it comes down to. And don't let anybody tell you any difference. I mean, I've had people make fun of me my whole life, and they still make fun of me for especially this topic that I'm talking about. As soon as somebody would ask me, because some people that know me ask what the upcoming episodes were. And when I told them that I was going to start basically this whole new series, The Honorable Warrior, and I told them what it was all about, they ridiculed me just left and right, because basically that's all that they know how to do, because that's the way we were raised. And that's fine. I left well enough alone. It's like, that's your feeling. I'm not going to say any different. You can judge me however you want to. I know that I'm here for the guys that are going to be open-minded and receptive to this information. I'm not recommending anything. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to give you a little bit of information and say, okay, this is where we need to go. We need to find a way to try to make things a little bit better for us. We need to be supportive of other men and try to help them through it. That doesn't make you weak. And that's where everybody immediately thinks, well, you're just not a man, because guess what, there you showed a little compassion. No, actually, the men that show compassion to me are amazing. They are stronger than anybody else that I've ever met in your life. I mean, those are the ones that typically will have pets, and they take very good care of them. Like Willow, she goes everywhere with me. That's why I bought the truck that I have, is she gets the whole back seat. And then if nobody's with me, which is most of the time, then she gets the front seat too. And to me, how you treat animals says a lot about your character. I mean, I have seen so many people go through, and the ones that actually take care of the animals and incorporate them into their lives, those are the guys I want to get to meet, because they're incredible. They almost have like a different way of looking at life, which is really, really cool. And that's the way, we really should be. That's the way we men need to get to. And that's a long road, and it's just not something that's going to happen overnight. But if anything that you take away from the podcast today, I'm just hoping that maybe planting the seed of, it is okay to be you, to be a little bit soft, to let your guard down a little bit, with the right guys in the right group. That's what you need to, basically you need to find, and somebody that's going to help build you up. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to try to find some benefits. I wrote down some ideas of what I think the benefits of a bromance are. Now, I know you guys are probably sitting there thinking, oh my God, Sean, you keep bringing this up. Yes, I'm going to keep bringing this up because I think it's a good thing. Because we men have to stick together and help each other out, because we're the sounding boards for each other. So I try to figure out some of the benefits for having a bromance, and the first one that I could think of that pops right into my head is it allows you to be yourself. And I've kind of talked about that a couple times throughout here, but to me, it allows you to be yourself. You don't have to change for anybody. You don't have to hide anything. You can just say it the way it is, and you can basically be yourself. I mean, I don't know how else basically to say it. It allows you to open up, if something's bothering you, or mentally wise, if something's bothering you. This will, you can go over to this person and say it the way it is, and they're just going to accept you for who you are and allow you to be yourself, and they don't think anything less of you. To me, that's an absolute huge thing. Another thing that basically that I could come up with is men don't have any like unrealistic expectations for each other. Basically, we stand up for our friends. We want to be there. We're going to be the first one in the middle of a fight. Now, granted, yes, I'm old, and I know that if I get in a fight defending my friend, I'm probably going to take a little bit longer to heal up. But you know what? Basically, when you don't expect more, you just don't come into the relationship saying, oh, wow, he's a rocket scientist. He must be absolutely bright, and he must be rich, and he must be so powerful. We don't have those kind of expectations. What we do is we accept the person for who they are, and we allow them to be who they are. And that's like the second thing that I could think of is we just allow each other to be just themselves. That's really, to me, I couldn't come up with another. The third thing that I could think of, basically, it's a great stress reliever having a bromance. Mainly because even on stressful days, I mean, so what if you go over and sit in the garage? I mean, I love sitting in the garage, having deep conversations. I mean, I can't drink because I'm allergic to alcohol, but I know a lot of them will sit down and have a beer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or have some whiskey, or whatever it is. I know some guys drink wine. That's fantastic. I tried wine, and I wish I could drink more, but I just haven't found one that I like. But the alcohol doesn't sit well with me, so. But there's something to be said about just being able to sit down in a judgment-free zone and just let the stress come off. You talk about your day, you talk about the week, you talk about what's bothering you at home. You have to have a safe place to go to and talk about things. It doesn't matter if it's if you're physically hurting, if you're mentally hurting, you're emotionally hurting. You have to be able to feel comfortable talking to that person. And that's one of the biggest benefits, I think, about a bromance. And yes, I know you guys are probably cringing thinking, oh, well, a bromance makes you weak. It does not make you weak. I can't stress that enough. You have to be able to talk to somebody. And I'm sure I'm going to get lots of mail from this episode. But all I can say is I've seen so much in my lifetime. And this is one thing that I wish we could change about being a man in the worst way. The fourth thing that I could come up with is knowing that somebody has always got your back. And it may sound weird, but one thing that I've started recently, I've seen too much death, and we've lost too many either family members or friends or anything like that recently. And I mean, my poor son has lost so many of his friends and family. It breaks my heart. And one thing that it taught me, even though that I went through and I've lost my parents and they're laid to rest, God rest their souls, is I started telling people how much I appreciate them in my life, and I can't thank them enough for being who they are. And I always try to say, hey, I appreciate you in my life, and I couldn't imagine my life without you. And I realize that sounds really, really, for lack of better words, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way, but it sounds girly, it sounds emotional, and it is. But you know what? If somebody was to tell me that, it doesn't matter if it's a guy, saying, you know what, you mean the world to me by being in my life. You always make me laugh, or I know I can come to you and talk to you in times of need, and you're not going to judge me. And you're going to stop whatever you're doing and listen to me for that time. If somebody told me that, it would make me feel absolutely amazing. Mainly because it's like, okay, I know that I'm doing what I said I was going to do. I try to honor my word and try to conduct myself with honor and integrity to the best of my abilities. I am not perfect at it by any way, shape, or form. I keep trying, and I keep trying. And I try to be, the rule is when I wake up in the morning is to be a better person today than I was yesterday. I keep trying to build up as much as I can. And to me, knowing that somebody has my back and they tell me they have my back. Now I know with them being there, and we talk, and we're out joking around or having a meal together or grilling on the deck, and they're there. I know I can say without a doubt by the way that they're talking, the way their body is reacting and stuff, they're going to be there for me. If I knew that if I had trouble, I know that they would be there in a hot second. But there's something to be said about being told that you have somebody's back or somebody has got your back. It just makes you feel so much better. It makes you feel that, they think the world of you, and they'll do whatever they can to try to take care of you and help you in your bad times and in your good. I mean, like I said, I am not a fair weather friend. When I say you're a friend, and I don't use that word lightly, but if you're a friend and I invite you into my house, there isn't anything that I won't do to protect you, to help you, to be there for you, or whatever it is. So I try to let them know. So I've been trying to make that change and saying, I appreciate you in my life, and I appreciate all you do for me. And it catches them off guard because we're guys. We're not used to hearing that. A lot of them don't know how to process it. But I have been trying to make like a step forward because that's what I want to see other men do. And sometimes I've seen that once I start doing things, other guys kind of follow suit because they say, okay, well, maybe I can do that. It's kind of like when I go to the store in the morning. Every time that somebody holds the door open for me, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's a guy holding the door open for me. I didn't think anything dirty or naughty about it or not. I always tell them thank you and have a good day. And they expect to thank you, but to have a good day, I've caught, someone will kind of look at me like in a shocked look and is like, hey, yeah, no, I mean it. I really want you to have a good day. I hope it turns out well. And there's been a couple of them that will stop. They'll turn around and say, thanks, I really needed that. I really appreciate it. I'm being genuine. I really want you to have a good day. And I figured that if I want somebody to build me up and try to help me out, then I need to help and build them up. Basically put the first step forward. And that's what I try to do every day that I can. And I have plenty of guys that come and talk to me because they know whatever I say stays between us, and I am not going to think anything less of them. And they've come to basically rely on that because there's times that they'll come in and sit down at my desk and absolutely just unload. And it's like, okay, well, you go right on ahead if that makes you feel better. And I don't take it personally. You say however you need to say it, and you just go ahead and get it out of your system. Because all of us have so much of that anger and hatred and stress and worry and everything else that is so built up in us that we don't know what to do with it anymore. So when you can finally find a place to basically let it out, to vent, you're going to go there. And I'm more than happy to be there for any of my friends anytime to help them out. And I think that by showing that it's okay, you have a safe zone, it's okay to be there, I'm trying to establish how I think men should be. I'm not saying, that we need to make major changes or anything like that there, and sometimes I think we need to get out of the Stone Ages where we walked around the club and then just beat the heck out of everything. We need to get away from that. And I think I'm trying to let men know that it's okay to change. It's okay to be a little bit softer. I mean, I'm not perfect at it. I'm not going to lie about that one there. I'm still struggling with it myself. But I'm trying to put my good foot forward and trying to make those changes to make things a little bit better. And hopefully people are seeing that and they think a little bit better of me. That's all I can hope for, and knowing that they always have a safe place to go. So I mean, I don't have all the answers. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I don't have all the answers. But what I want you to know is if you need to talk or if you do have a question, you're welcome to email me at seangmorris@gmail.com. And I've answered every email that I've gotten in. And even if I don't know, then I'll let you know. But all I can do is trying to say, you know what, don't think down on a bromance. I know it's been made fun of and people are saying that, oh, that makes you weak. It's not. Stop thinking that way, because we're allowed to have those deep connections with another guy as much as women have them with other women. I mean, that's just the way it is. And we need to get away from the stigma of, oh, well, that makes you weak. It does not make you weak, guys. I can't stress that enough. Just because you have a super, super good friend and somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can sit by and express how you feel, talk about what's bothering you, whatever it is, respect those relationships and hang on to those relationships and try to foster them and try to bring other guys into it. It's kind of like the podcast. I'm hoping you guys are sharing the podcast so I can, tell other guys, hey, this is what we're doing. It's okay. Don't look down on yourself. This is amazing. You're strong. You're incredible. You're a problem solver. You're always there for work. You're paying your bills. You're taking care of your family. You're doing all the right things. But you're probably not thinking about your mental health. You're probably not thinking about your physical health because you're so worried about everybody else. And that's what this podcast is all about, is saying, guys, you got to think about this stuff a little bit. And if that means talking about your feelings and letting emotions out, then that's what it means. And I know it's tough. It's difficult. It's near impossible for us because it's kind of like unlocking Fort Knox. I'm not going to lie about that one. And like I said, I am still working on it myself. I am not a therapist. I am not a counselor. I am not a shrink or anything like that. I'm not important to have a piece of paper on the wall saying I know everything and I know how best to go about this. All this is everything I've learned is by the school of hard knocks, and I keep trying to learn. And I figure if I figure something out, I just put it on the podcast. It's more information for you in the hopes of maybe helping you down the road. That's all I can hope for with this. But the last comment I wanted to make basically is everybody's heard this line, "No man is an island" by John Donne. Think of it that way, guys. No man is an island. I get told this all the time, that you can't do everything yourself. You can't put everything on your shoulders. Even though we do and we try and we do everything we can to be that rock, to be that pillar for everybody else, at some point you need help as well, and there's nothing wrong with it. Do not think it's weak and don't think it's girly. However, it's put to us. We all know that, us guys know what we get called and how we get tore down. But no man is an island, guys. So, if you want to reach out to me, I'll do my best to try to help wherever I can. Share this podcast with, all of your guy friends as much as you can, in the hopes of maybe there's something in this podcast that will help them, or maybe get them to see things from a different angle. That's all I can hope for. And hopefully you continue to listen. Make sure that you subscribe to my page. I'm pretty well out of time. I'm looking at the clock on my monitor. I'm over again. I can't stay within a time frame. I'm hopeless. Keep listening to the podcast. Make sure you like my Facebook page. Please subscribe to my YouTube page. That one there helps move me up in the rankings. It makes it easier for people to find the podcast there, the algorithms, and it does however those things work. I just know that if you subscribe more, then more people can find us because it's easier to find the podcast. So that's all I'm asking for you to do. You're welcome to comment, share the pages that you want, however you want to go about it. Just try to get the word out there for folks. All I want to do is just try to help as many people as I can, and I want to try to help as many men as I can, and let them know that you're not alone out there. This guy's got your back, and I will do everything I can to try to help you. So, all right, I'm going to end the podcast right there. Hopefully there's something in there that you like. But I'm going to end it, as always, with the dad joke of the day. So, if you're ready to go, here it is. Do you know where young trees go to learn? To an elementary school. I thought that was pretty cute. I thought, great. We're always worried about our families. I thought that would be perfect for, the joke there. Thanks so much for listening. You guys are amazing. You have got this. I've got your back. Handle everything as you can. You guys are incredible. Stay strong out there, guys. And